Kitty, did you get enough to sleep? Well, do me a favor. Don't sleep all day, because all you usually do is sleep. All you do is sleep and watch TV. Why? Why, Kitty, why? Figure it out and then get back with me. Kitty. You know you're not supposed to be up there now. Kitty. 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 Kitty, 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 kitty. It is Friday the 13th, 2026. Welcome to the Please Subscribe Show. We're going door to door to see who needs ADT equipment to protect their family from crime and fire. Haven't been able to add a whole bunch to the book lately, or to the novel, but it's still on my mind. I've got 2 of them that I'm working on. But the finalization of Rib, parentheses, or Dog Night Out, close parentheses, dash Shepherds of Alaska, I only have 9 to 8 more chapters to go, because I'm not going to go over 100 chapters. So I already know what's going to happen. The next sequence is going to be Jed Wilson training Poopy and Droopy on how to work the drones out in Alaska. And there'll be some talk about revolution. It's kind of about revolution, but it's about a revolutionary independent branch. That's what RIB stands for. And they're out in Alaska training to monitor basically corrupted authority, especially in law enforcement and in the government. But they don't go after government officials usually. They're mostly concerned with the man with the sword, if you know what I mean. The man in arms that could be corrupt. And there is one, Daniel Lucius Copex, who's basically like a serial killer. And he frames an innocent cop, Shep Dwight East, who's sent out to Alaska. That's why it's called Shepherds of Alaska. And I've got about 10 more pages. I call it a surreal cop drama. And there's also a dwarf in it that was a school teacher who comes up with a theory of time travel. Later on, it would go into time travel. It's a very unique book. Anyway, I've got only 10 more chapters for the first book. It's a 3-book series. So I'm at the last crunch thing, and I'm hoping to get it. But I'm only working sometimes a few lines a night. Let me explain something about a book, okay? Regardless of how many pages Stephen King can do, which some say he can do 6 pages a day. He might could do 20 pages a day. I don't know how many pages he does. But he does advance, and he does write a lot of books. I've heard that he reads for 4 hours and he writes for 4 hours. Or he'll read for 4 hours and he'll write for 6 hours. But he gets roughly 6 concrete pages down to the editor or ready to go each day. That's tough to do. But if you look at that in 6 months, you got a pretty hefty book. Now, I've taken a lot of English classes. I was a straight A student in college on my English classes, usually. I was a 4.0 student. And what I learned in writing, if you can progress a single line or a single word in a novel, that's progression. And that novel will be written. Some can do 6 pages a day. Some can do maybe 20. And that's a lot. 20 is a lot for one concrete, ready to go to the editor in for the story. meaning that's like in stone, good to go. 6 pages, right? That's a lot. You will get that book done. If you do half a page a day, that's really good progression. A paragraph a day is good compression. The guy that wrote Candide, if you've ever read Candide, and I had to read it for an English class, it's real complex. He said something like that. He said, if you write a single word or a single line a day, you have progression. It's when you do nothing on the book, and people do it. That person does it. That person does it. That person does it. They don't write a single word or a letter on their book. Do you see what I'm saying? So it doesn't get done. And most people are that way. Stephen King's an exception because he's one of our greatest writers of all times. Edgar Allan Poe version, right? He's as good as Edgar Allan Poe. He's won many awards dedicated to Edgar Allan Poe. He's scary, but he knows this stuff better than everyone. He has these dreams. He dreams his books, and he wakes up writing, basically, or getting it ready. He's a hard-working writer. There's also Patterson, who I've met. I met James Patterson, and he's talked about Stephen King. They always do. But Cormac is one of my favorites, and he lived in a shack with his wife. They basically didn't even have a floor. They bathed in a lake for a while. He was also military, and he wrote No Country for Old Men, and he ended up pretty much probably dying a rich man, but he was one of our, I think, greatest, of all times, really, I would say, one of our greatest of our century. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. All right, headed out. You'll see me drop food at the doorstep later on tonight, but right now, we're door to door. My sister used to live right down there. She met an insurance agent who was pretty much a millionaire. I was her first husband. She ended up having 4 before she passed away. She was on her 4th husband when she left. In 1987 or 1988, I believe it was summertime, I had a broken ankle. I used to skateboard, and on a mini ramp at Dove Park, if you're familiar with Dove Park, I broke my left ankle. You ever seen Misery, written by Stephen King, where the ankle turned all the way? Mine turned about, not 180, but it was like 90 degrees, and it broke. It was a spiral fracture. So I was with a cast up to my hip for 6 months, and I was actually in Haltom, on the other side of town, with my mom. But I originally was living with my grandma, and so was my sister. But my mom wanted to help with me, and I was taking a lot of painkillers, and I was on my own, other than my mom helping and my stepdad, but I was on a couch when all this happened. This is Diamond Lock. And my sister was there with my grandparents, and my grandfather was blind. He fought in World War II in the Navy in the Pacific. Well, he would go out in the garden every morning, and he would take a restroom break. Number 1, he would pee in the tomato garden. There were guys in the backyard in mask with voice changers. So you could not hear, or you could not distinguish the character of their voice with the voice changer. They talk like this with the voice changer. And they told them to go in the living room and lay down, and they covered them with blankets. They both had shotguns, the intruders. This is the house right here. My sister heard what was going on. She was in a back room in the corner, and it was an add-on room, so they didn't know. They went through all the rooms searching. I was supposed to be there, but I was at my mom's on the other side of town. Well, my sister jumped out of the window. They entered through the back door. Most home invasions happen in the back door. They had them lay down, and they went through all their jewelry and got a lot of their jewelry. My sister jumped out of that window right there where that brown thing is. The little tiny window right there. She jumped over the fence. So we're going to look where the fence is. My sister's no longer with us, though. She passed away this year. See that fence? She jumped that fence and alerted those neighbors. Those neighbors, if the same one, they came out with shotguns and confronted the burglars or the home invaders at the front door. They were banging on the door trying to get in because my sister was crying because she didn't want my my papa, my Mimar to be killed. And they were covered with blankets. And then the guy with the voice changers told them to be still and not move from under the blankets. They went through their bedroom and got over like $100,000 worth of jewelry. Now, the gunfight the gunfight started off in the backyard. So they jumped the fence, and I guess someone had a truck, and they went through the neighborhood, basically a firefight. So the neighbors were shooting at their vehicle, trying to get them to stop. I guess trying to maybe shoot their tires out. And they got away. So we don't know exactly the path. I don't know the path they took. And I don't know if they jumped the fence and went into the front. And I don't know where they parked the vehicle. But this is an area I used to go to skateboard when I was younger. Now, I was at my mom's. I was about 15, and I had a cast to my hip, and I was pretty much on the couch when this happened. But my bedroom was in the front of that house that I just showed you, and they went into that bedroom looking for more gold and stuff. So I possibly would have been in there laying in the bed. They could have shot me if I tried to got up or something, or they could have just went in there and just shot me. I would be, burglaries go wrong. They didn't cover all their, they didn't cover everything that they tried to cover because that burglary went wrong. But they did take my grandfather basically in false custody. These guys would have went to prison for life. And if they would have killed my grandparents, they would have got the death penalty. But they didn't kill anyone. Whether they got shot, I don't know. This is all over jewelry. My father and my grandfather were in the jewelry business most of their life. These were pretty expensive homes back in the day. The reason I'm going back here is because I think they may have parked back here maybe. I'm still investigating the crime even today. It happened in 1988, 98, 2008, 2016, almost 40 years ago. Here's Windsor. So what they probably did, because they probably snuck in at 5 a.m., they probably jumped a few fences in the back. There's a creek bed or a river bed that's behind, it's more like almost like a small creek that's behind their house. And I think they probably went through there and accessed it through maybe jumping one of these neighbors, I don't know which one of the neighbors' fences, and probably may have their truck parked back here. That way their truck, there it is. You can see the creek bed that way. See down that way where it falls downward? There's a creek back there. It's like a pond or something. They may have parked over here. And this is where the firefight may have started, because if the neighbors were smart enough, that's the golf area right over there. Look at that old thing right there. The golf 18 holes is over that way. I don't think they parked there. They could have, but somewhere around here. I don't think they were stupid enough to park right by the house. So I wanted to go by here just to kind of show you how real home invasion was and how horrible that was. It affected my grandfather for the rest of his life. He never went anywhere in the house without a 38 special in his back pocket. He even pulled it on me one time when I was making spaghetti when I was in college. He didn't know I was over there, and he pulled the gun out. And I said, hey, he called me Chuck rather than Cole. He goes, hey, Chuck, is that you? And I said, yeah. Yeah, they almost got killed. But there's a creek bed back there, whether they parked back here or wherever they parked. The gunfight went on wherever. My sister was okay until this year. This year, she didn't make it through this year. So from 1988, she was older than me. So she was probably a year and a half older. She died at almost 54. And I'm 52. So home invasion is horrible. It is real. And it did affect her for the rest of her life. They weren't able to hurt her, but she heard them trying to hurt my grandparents. And my grandmother was injured in it because she flipped out. My grandmother started screaming, so they grabbed a globe. It was like a globe that you can look on. It's like a round globe. They grabbed that and hit her over the head with it. It's like those old globes. It was made out of wood and paper mache or whatever they make it out of, and it has like a light in the middle. They grabbed one of those and knocked it on her head. which is weird. And I think she was bleeding towards the end of it. And so that's when they covered them with blankets so they would calm down. If that's not scary, you got people with voice changers, get under their blankets, don't move, right? Kind of funny. But when that shit's really going down, you ain't laughing. Especially when they got a shotgun to your head. So home invasion does happen. And most home invasions end violent. And guess what? They've proven this in demographics. It happens every 2 minutes. A vampire never reveals his spirit animal, but it can be a cat. But once you let the vampire in, because they have to be invited, then they join the family. I read a lot of Anne Rice. I used to. I don't read a lot of Anne Rice. I've only read Interview with the Vampire, but I have read it. I sat down. It was back when I smoked cigarettes. I'd lay on the couch, had these silver, what are they called? Camel cigarettes. I'd sitting there reading Anne Rice. She wrote in Denton. She wrote a werewolf, I think it's a trilogy, or it's a werewolf book in Denton. I'll look it up later. Rife, sneak. Anne Rice wrote the Werewolf Gift Chronicles. It's chronicles about werewolves. And she wrote some of that in Denton, Texas. True story. Jill and I were going to move in a rent house right over that way that my dad was connected to. Right near Damon Lot. But Angel didn't like it. That one's not moved in yet. Is there a horse back there? Something moved back there. It looked like a horse's butt. Yeah, I think there's a horse back there. That or a werewolf. So in rib, parentheses, or Dog Night Out, close parentheses, dash, Shepherds of Alaska, the evil character is a serial killer known as Daniel Kopex. His full name is Daniel Lucius Kopex. All right. He looks like Ray Fiennes. Okay, older gentleman. Used to be NYPD. He was gay and got caught on a subway kissing another man, and so they fired him from the force. So he started going around different departments and hacking his way into the police departments because he knew so much. He was a genius. So he'd show up and the paperwork would be ready to go and he'd be ready to start work. In this story. Now, as a child, he was raised in this area because I'm using this area kind of in my mind. I was raised in this area. I've never wore a badge, not on a force or like a police department. I've never done anything like that, but I've had family that had. This character sets up another police officer named Shepard Dwight East, who's a good guy who goes off to Alaska to hide. When I was a kid, we would play a thing called Borderlands right down here. My mom was walking with my stepdad and they saw these people. They were dressed up like cards, like a deck of cards. They were right down that way. Borderlands would dress up like Dungeons and Dragons. And you could be an elf, you could be a spellcaster, you could be a fighter or whatever. And now I was real young, or actually when I was probably like 12 or so, we were walking down here. My stepdad and I had a trench coat on, and Michael and Bird Nest Head were with me. They're in the story that I wrote called Catnappers. A truck stopped right there and turned the bright lights on me. And my stepdad and his the two younger boys ran off laughing. I stood still, and he kept his bright lights on me for a long period. That's where Craig is drowned in the book. It's a failed baptism in the book. It's called a failed baptism. This is known as Fossil Creek. Okay? In the book, it has a different name. You'll have to read the book to find out the name. It's also in the short story known as Catnappers. And I do believe I refer to it as Fossil Creek and Catnappers, which is on Fiction Press under Ash Cole, which is my pseudonym. Another story about tourists. We're on Tourist Drive. That's what this is right here. Tourist Drive. I got in my first car accident. I had a Cavalier. And it was raining. I was with a guy named Sean. We were 16. The lady was driving right here. She had a car almost exactly like that. And I hit her right here sliding because my tires were horrible. I slid right into her and pushed her up against this curb. She was okay, but her ankle was hurt. And we had insurance and everything. The cop showed up, took all the information. Now, as kids, we used to run around like ninjas all around here, and we'd terrorize this neighborhood. Even one time, we were like maybe 12, the cops would show up and then knock on the door. They'd make us clean up the eggs that we would throw on people's houses, which was this neighbor right here. We terrorized that neighbor. So my sister did. My sister snuck in this neighbor's car and smoked her cigarettes. We lived right here at 5921 Circular Drive. It says it right here. Circular Drive. 5921. It was my cousin's house, Josh Nyes. David Nyes lived here with my aunt Cindy Nyes. We moved in later and rented the house. Foster Harrington, who is Forrester in the book, or the short story really, Catnappers. We used to go up into that tree right there. We'd climb the tree and slide down the other side to get over the fence. And we would create these missions at night. We dressed up like ninjas or camouflage. He liked camouflage because he joined the Marines. And he died on his second tour a long time ago. But we would run around these neighborhoods in the middle of the night like lunatics, hiding in bushes like that. And we would have it all mapped out on graph paper, which house we were going to terrorize. And we usually did it with Rum Dum Diddy, which is a mixture of tomato, corn, and hamburger meat. Or we would use eggs, which we would get in trouble with the police because it stains the cars. They wouldn't always find us because other kids were doing it too. But it did happen. We were like maybe 11 or 12, maybe 12 at the we shouldn't have been doing that. But then we had smoke bombs. Sometimes we'd throw smoke bombs off and then run. And then the neighbors would be like, oh gosh. They didn't have security back then though. Kids would terrorize the neighborhood. That's what Catnappers is about. Look, there it is, the missing dog. And Catnappers, cats go missing. They're supposedly a satanic cult where they're killing cats. And the boys want to stop them because one of the cat that the lead character in it, the protagonist has, is named Princess. And he wants to protect his cat. It's kind of a kid's story a little bit. I believe that character's name probably is Jonah in it. Or it's his secret name in it. One of the characters is Dijon. And another one, I believe his name is Dijon Tiller, is based on my friend Sean Miller. There is it's Crazy Squirrel. I have to go back and look at Catnappers. I haven't read it in a long time. It's on my fictionpress.com, and I've got some fans already that are checking it out. A lot of people don't read Catnappers. They'll read the other stuff, but Catnappers I'm fond to. It's kind of like Stephen King's The Body, which turned into Stand By Me. It has that kind of notion in it. But they terrorize the neighborhood here, and their goal is to find the satanic cult and to stop them. And they find it's an old like shack in the woods over in Trinity, or actually in Fossil Creek, and the Fossil Creek area. And there's only a lamp inside of it. It's like an oil lamp burning by itself. It's like basically like a homeless guy living out in the middle of the woods. And basically what happens is they don't find anybody, and they end up throwing these fireworks out into the air on this couple that's walking a dog and late at night, just to scare them off because they think that they're part of the satanic cult. You got to read it. And then what ends up happening too is he runs across this guy at a gas station that has tattoos, and that's kind of the end of the story. It's existential, or maybe it's not a faith-based story, right? It's not like a Christian book or anything, but it's not like promoting anything evil against cats. But this really actually happened. Cats were being found with a nail in their head from a stick and a nail. People were going around hitting cats in the head with a nail. This was happening in like the late 80s when Metallica and Slayer, especially Slayer. Metallica wasn't as bad, but Slayer was a big deal, and there were other kind of Satanist groups. So cats were actually being sacrificed or being killed. And also Harmony Korine wrote about it, if you've ever seen Gummo. there's cats that are supposedly a target in that. So I got the idea from a lot of different stuff. Maybe some of it from Gummo too. But this is considered, I believe, on address, I want to say it's considered Hearst. That says North Hills right here. I'm trying to think what I named the Fossil Creek area in the book, and I'll have to go back and read the book. But it might have mentioned something like Forest Hills or something like that, in that nature. Fossil Creek is a very common name. Probably in all 50 states they have a Fossil Creek. But this is very close to the Fossil Creek area. And that's where I based Catnappers, the short story, which is under my pseudonym Ash Cole, on my fictionpress.com. So it is self-published. It's a self-published book. The one that I'm working on now is mostly being posted on Facebook, but it'll also go on fictionpress.com under Ash Cole as a self-published book. It'll all be self-published. All right? My friend Sean, who is Dijon Tiller in the story Catnappers, he actually went a little further than Rum Dum Diddy and throwing eggs. He would actually poop in saran wrap and leave it on the windshield. I didn't like doing that. I didn't like him doing that. One time a cop stopped him somewhere around here, and he had ton-foos. If you know what ton-foos are, they're like a baton. And he's told him, you can't have that on you, by the way. It was like a baton. And the actuality is he can to defend himself against dogs, but police officers were no longer allowed to carry those types of weapons, especially after a few beatings were caught on video. Because Rodney King wasn't the only beating caught by one of those things. But he told him, he said, you can't carry that. You can carry a stick to protect yourself against dogs. It's called a walking stick. And also in the Bible, all the saints, they had a walking stick. That's pretty much all they had, other than the clothes on their back. And that's the circular house right there. I lived right in that room right here. And when we were younger, Foster and I would sneak back past my sister's room, which was right here, through the bathroom. There's a bathroom in that one, out the window in the back. And the bloodhounds would start kind of barking at us. Our goal was one of our goals was to hit the ground without notifying or actually upsetting the dogs. So the dogs would not know what was going on. Like to sneak past the dogs without waking them. We wanted to be that quiet. And that was kind of Foster's early training before he ran off to the Marines. His first tour, he came back in a sports car because they give him 6 figures for combat pay. The second tour, he didn't make it. Is Tourist Drive in Bewley, where the kids go down bicycles. They use the bicycles to go down towards the Fossil Creek area in the story. Basically towards the creek. What I name it is probably like Forest Hills or something like that. And they go down there to explore through the night to try to find the cult that are killing cats. The cat nappers. That was an old manor right there. Off the main road right here, which is 377. I believe it's called Denton Highway. Now they tore it all down, but they still have the gate of the manor. Or manor. I guess some people call it a manor. But look at that right there. All of that was part of that property. It's like Burns on The Simpsons. It was kind of like almost like a little mansion. And they tore it all down. They're developing. I'm going to go not this way. I'm going to go another way. This is not the right way on this way. Even though the map is taking me this way, they don't have the information yet. So they can't disposition the map properly. So you're kind of doing this kind of thing right here. And then you go like this again. Keep on going back and forth like this. I do want to break out. All I got to do is break out Catnappers and read it. I did a reading on SoundCloud. It was actually a pretty good reading. You can find it. It's stored in Berlin or in Europe. And if I reactivate my account, there's a good chance that I can revamp it and, just air it on SoundCloud. It would post on my Facebook. If I subscribe to my SoundCloud, I can go and find it and just hit share on Facebook, and then there's the reading. I used a digital mic. It was a Zoom mic, and then I put in various songs that SoundCloud allowed me to use. So in the reading, like, I think Ozzy's band, Black Sabbath is in it, because back then we were all headbangers and stuff, and so there's segments where Black Sabbath is mentioned and stuff like that. That would come up too on it. Metallica's in there. A few songs are in the actual reading. And I don't know if I used any sound effects, but I did use sound effects on the 3 play readings. They're like a radio plays almost. And I used a total of maybe 50 actors that I hired out in Irving. But they came at different times. I had a 3-bedroom apartment in Irving. So we'd go into basically the reading room or the office, and I had the chairs lined up in a semicircle and the microphone in the middle, and they did the reading that way. But I had microphones, Bluetooth microphones, set up so I could do sound effects. So I was operating the sound effects as doing the main reading. I was a protagonist in all 3 plays. The first play, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is called Hidden Drive, which is about the Moosehead Trail and a writer out in Maine. And then the second one is, if I'm not mistaken, is called Russian Butterfly, which is kind of about the church. And it's about espionage. And it goes all the way back out to Russia, to Maya's Russia, where one of the character hooks up on emails with a Russian lady that takes advantage of him. That one's called Russian Butterfly. It's actually spelled differently than what it sounds on purpose. RUSHIN apostrophe. Better, BETTER, and then fly. It sounds like Russian butterfly, but it's Russian butterfly. Then the third one is called In Store, and it's about a bank employee that's obsessed with the death of Apostle Paul. And he talks about how Apostle Paul, like why Apostle Paul was kept alive for so long. You have to listen to the play. There's 3 of those. That's a collection of plays. I call it the Summer Plays of 2018. And those are on SoundCloud too. I think it's under Ash Cole. It might be under my name too, Cole Spivey. Lived right over here. My stepdad's last name was Reeves, as in Earl Reeves, also known as Maynard Reeves. I didn't even notice that was Reeves. It was spelt the same way. And that's circular right there. We lived there for a while too. Go back over this way. I had a friend named Mark that got beat up in the front yard, in our front yard, because he was messing around with the selling of pot. And the guy that was pretty much hanging out with him beat the crap out of him in our front yard, like bloodied his nose, and then drove off with a bunch of other dudes. They just pulled up, jumped out, grabbed his hair, threw him down, started beating him in the face. It was all over marijuana. He was, I guess, trying to deal with it or buying it off of them or borrowing it from them or something. And then we had skateboard ramps and stuff all out right here. There is some video footage of it, of me on a skateboard right here. I used to jump on that roof right there and listen to Depeche Mode on a Sony Walkman. I lived right there, that one. Where Bob Allen lived from Hip Pocket Theater. Later on, I would join Hip Pocket Theater as an actor. Bob Allen lived right there. And I hit his neighbor in a car. I hit his neighbor's car with my car when I was 16. Didn't even know. Later on, Bob Allen and I would do plays together at Hip Pocket Theater. He's a funny guy. He was in Swink City. He's horribly funny, too. He's still doing stuff out in Hip Pocket every once in a while. He still hangs out there, at least. That's Fossil Creek area. One of my plans is I would like to go back, if I get enough together, if I scrape enough together and do Catnappers, I could use the short story as a script and hire the actors, the producers, the cinematographers, the whole cast. There'd be contracts drawn, and we could do it right here in the neighborhood. It looks almost exactly as it looked in the late 80s. I mean, you know, Stranger Things is big, you know, 1980s, late 80s. It'd be cool, cool, cool. That's where they were doing construction earlier. I got around them. That's where the Manor is. Big old house I tore down. Right here, you can see part of Fossil Creek. In the story, Craig, is drowned by Daniel in the river because Daniel's trying to perform a baptism on him and it goes wrong. Drowns him and his body floats to a pile of sticks closer to Fossil Creek area. I do believe I use a name that's similar. The area name, the name of the creek, it's very similar. I just can't recall it right now for some reason. I want to say it might have been Forest Hills, but I'm not for sure if I used that name either. I'll have to go back and find the name I used. But they find him, and he goes to a payphone and calls and reports him drowned. That was like accidental drowning, so he got away with it. But he was really trying to do a baptism and drowned him. Later, he would turn into a serial killer. And he's in the book, in the novel, Rib. And the Revolutionary Independent Branch end up getting him. And they're like a secretive force out of Alaska. They're kind of like basically a militia. And they find him because he had been posing as officers, as police officers, and killing migrants that have no social security. Can you believe that? You know, the number one, like missing people they never find on murders were Native American women that didn't have a social security number. There was no way to trace them. They just go and disappear. Nobody knows. There's no way to find them. There's no way to find out who they are. That's why he gets the migrants. Nowadays with the matricular card, it's easier, but not all of them have matricular card. People that are Video Bob Mosley fans on YouTube, known as Video Bob, who hung out with Adam the Woo, and he's in Vegas. He recently vlogged that Clown Burgers. He went in, he ate a burger, and he says, I get this. He gets why people eat them. They're right there. Clown Burgers. There's another one too, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's two of them. That's one of them. They've been around since 1959. He also went to this save on place where you basically shop and save. He's kind of a stand-up comedian. He's a dude that hung out with Gene Simmons from Kiss. He was their vocal announcer. He was the one that goes, here's Kiss. Everybody, to like a whole group of, a whole stadium of people. Introducing Kiss. He was that dude. But he did it like several times on different digital recordings, so he wouldn't have to be at every single concert. So he would record it digitally, like a sound bite almost. Then it would be released on the speakers. He was also a driver for a few bands too. He would be a driver. Now he's like a millionaire that lives in Las Vegas, and his place recently burned down. It was horrible, almost killed it. He killed his cat, but they were able to resurrect his cat. They were able to give CPR to his cat, and his cat's okay. I think his cat's still okay. But what he does is he deals in antique cars or older cars. He remodels cars, basically classic cars, and he specializes in the Back to the Future sports car, the DeLorean, in making it look like the one Marty drove, McFly and Doc Brown. The DeLorean. They soup it up, the time machine, and they make it look like the real thing. And they go to like Twin Parks Mall and things like that. He lived in this area. He'd be a great producer for Catnappers if he's hearing this vlog. I don't know if he watches my stuff. He may not have time. He does like stand-up comedy, and Gene Simmons is hanging around him from Kiss. Like Keep It Stupid Simple. We're talking about the real band Kiss. He like knows him. Dude had a drill in his hand, was being a hard ass. Mustang. I know that for sure. It's a classic car alert. And this one's a Ford. Nice little classic car. 3.4, we're on like the 10th, maybe 15th house, somewhere in that ballpark figure. Denton Highway. I didn't do it. And I did go to a Baptist private school at the age of maybe 6. It was first grade and second grade. I might have been 7. And then my mom came in and pulled me out once she divorced my dad. And it was right here, called Glenview Baptist. They moved by the highway. Now it's Oasis Community. It's a church now. And our classrooms were behind those houses and trailers. We had classrooms and trailers. I got an award there for a physical education award because I was a slow learner in first and second grade. I was, it's called dyslexic, but my principal cured me. He was a Christian man. He cured me in the office in one session. It's a true story. I was writing my words, or I was writing my numbers backwards. I started to become dyslexic. You can do that. And he set me down, and in one lesson, he taught me not to do that. And then I could see well again. I could see that the difference between 11 and 12, rather than 11 and 21, or 11 and 31, or 11 and 41. He turned it around and made me see that it was 11, 12, 13, 14, if that makes sense. So I was able to start to see things straightly. Things started to turn on me. And he cured me. He was a Christian man. It was a very weird day. Then the next day, I was able to write to 100 all correctly. It was amazing. I do believe in faith healing. And that was Glenview Baptist right there. That's an occupied house. That's what it looks like when they're not there. This one is almost exact, but this is a new move-in. Look at the trees on the ground, which, you know, probably, and then look, is that a blinds? Maybe. And then look at that, a sideways 5. Next door, 600 feet. Home City. It's a pretty cool little front yard thing. Where's the ice storm? It's like 12 miles per hour, Marty. 12 miles per hour. It's definitely not going to be time traveling going that slow. We're gonna do the old go around kind of thing over here. Ooh, wow, I'm impressed. That thing's still activated. like they've got some important construction going on along this road right here. And they just moved in right there. Looks like a TV and the patio lights on. That means they're moving in. All right, looks like we're gonna do a little dinner. 7-Eleven is one of my favorites. They got sandwiches ranging at $5. Now, if you hit them up at midnight, because most 7-Elevens do close, most 7-Elevens are 24/7. They're open 24 hours, even on Christmas time they're open. But if you hit them up at midnight and they haven't tossed the old sandwiches, they have to give them to you for free. Now, there are some that won't. Some clerks won't. But they literally throw them away after midnight. And you can get them for free around midnight. I've done it plenty of times. So you just go up there, and let's say you find a sandwich. What is today? Friday the 13th? So let's say you find a sandwich for Friday the 12th. Thursday the 12th. You would be able to get that sandwich for free. You just show it to the clerk and say, this says the 12th, today's the 13th. You're going to throw that away, right? And they're like, yeah. Can you scan it and can I have it? And they'll give it to you a lot of times. They're like, yeah, sure. Let me just scan it out. For inventory purposes, they scan it out and then they just hand it to you. It's a free sandwich after midnight. You want to hit them at about midnight. So you get there about 11:57. I used to do it all the time when I did late night delivery. Or late night delivery. Late night delivery. When I used to deliver like 3 in the morning and stuff. It was there's no such thing as a free lunch, but it's a way to get a free sandwich at midnight. Now, some clerks will go, no, we don't do that here. I'm like, then that's fine, and then you just move on. Don't ever grab the sandwich and run. Don't just grab the sandwich and run off. But technically, they'd have to throw it away at that point. Now, I'm debatable with giving a thumbs up on this, and I'll tell you why. I would regularly give a thumbs up, but I'm going to tell you why. So that's why. So it didn't expire. This one's 14, it's closed, it's on Friday, so it will by midnight. All these are legit. This one's got 2 days on it. It's going with the tuna. Alright, so basically you're looking at paying $2.67 for regular gas. Just put in the reward number and you lower that 10 cents. Oh, cool. Alright, so excellent. 10 cents rollback. And we're good to go. All right, 7-Eleven tuna, yellowfin tuna, 430 calories. They're pretty tasty. They're one of my favorite sandwiches, other than maybe Subway. When it comes to gas station sandwiches, they're doable. But you gotta be careful with them. And he gave me plenty of napkins. So I'm gonna show you a trick. You go like this. Take the napkin, and you wear it like a bib, like that. Kind of put it on there like this, so you can kind of see it a little bit. that. And then you kind of get really careful with it. You want to get some of this stuff in there. So get the hand sanitizer involved. And then you got yourself a little sandwich right here. Right there. They make them fresh. I bring them in daily. And when they expire that night, they throw them away, at least I get a hold of them. If I get a hold of them, they last a little longer. All right, 1.8 for next door. Barking Kittens. It's a game. No name. Number 3. I don't know, it comes up as no name on the thing, so. Huh. If you are part of a state or federal corporate agency or any 3-letter alphabet agency, put on notice that only living men and women live in this domicile. Therefore, you have no authority. You will be held accountable by the law for violation of this notice. Yeah, probably gonna back out of this one. I don't know. There's supposed to be a new homeowner though, so I'm trying to figure out if they put that up there. Yeah, probably gonna back out of that. Yeah, that one looks like maybe a little weird. I'm probably gonna put them down as not interested or something. I don't understand it all. A lot of notices, so we're just gonna move on to the next one. We know is that 46% of new homeowners get broken into. It's almost like a 50-50. So if you got a house, you're dealing with a 46% chance of burglary. Also, it takes 15 minutes for your house to completely burn down. Now, if you have an air conditioner that's not a smart home air conditioner, you have about 10 minutes. I'll tell you why. So in the summertime, your house catches fire, let's say. you have what's known as an air conditioner. So as the heat rises in your home due to the fire burning all your furniture and possible pets and family members that could die if they don't get out quick enough, the air will kick on. Your air conditioner will kick on. It'll blow cool air towards the fire, fueling it. And that loves it because it has lots of oxygen in it. And that will increase the time. Well, it doesn't increase the time. It actually decreases the time. It decreases the time that the fire department has to get there. Now, a fire truck, they can get loaded and good to go in 60 seconds. They'll be on the road within a little over a minute once dispatch instructs them where the fire is. So if you have, let's say, I don't know, ADT, which is the oldest company in the world, it's like the 1870s, they're still on Wall Street, they will get there within a few minutes. We're talking sometimes 3 minutes, depending on where the fire department is. Those guys are trained to get on to the fire truck and get suited up within about 60 seconds. That's what they're trained to do. They have 1 minute to get suited up, engine started, fire truck going. The dispatch can take roughly about a minute. They have to interpret the dispatch to make sure if it's a false alarm. So within 120 seconds, they're already on their way, sometimes quicker. They're trained to try to get it down to about a minute, I think. Then they're on the road, and then they get to you, sometimes within 2 or 3 minutes. I know it sounds crazy. They can save your pets' lives, your children's lives, your wives' lives. I mean, they can save you, basically, from the fire. Now, this happened to where I live. There was a guy, and for some reason there was a rumor that the police did it. Who cares who did it, okay? But there was a guy that took a gas can and poured it into this window of this apartment complex. Then he made a little trail, because arson happens, and he used that trail as like a wick, and he lit the fire and went up the stairs into the upstairs neighbors. They were like drug dealers or pot smokers. They were like, he wanted to kill them because of judgment. You know, he wanted to destroy them for whatever reason. They were potheads. They were living upstairs. The lady that was up there jumped out of the window and almost burned to death and I think it broke her leg. The lady downstairs had smoke inhalation and barely got out. No one was killed but the dog. The dog died. So they lost that dog. What they need is they need like a person to protect people from guys like that. The dog, is a fan of the show. The dog actually died, so they weren't able to save that dog. So it does happen. And if you have a fire alarm that's monitored, the chances are so low that your homeowner's insurance becomes discounted because they'll get there in time and save everything. Our fire department there was a monitoring system that on the complex. There were some systems that were monitored, so they were able to get there pretty quick. And luckily, my cat and the people that I care about didn't perish. So, but it does happen. It can happen. Remember, you can do the Swiss cheese, which is, you can tell that it's Swiss cheese because, well, look, Swiss cheese. It's got holes in it. Put that on the cracker. Very tasty. 200 millimeter lens is a very different type of lens. It has like terminology on the way that it basically captures things. There's a smear with the 200 millimeter lens that's actually, it has a name that only the 200 millimeter lens can do. This thing has one in it. It actually has a 200 millimeter lens in it. You'll see it right here. You can see a slight smear with the light that's done only by 200 millimeter. I think right now we're at maybe 48 or 24. That's 0.5, which is the 13 millimeter. I call it 0.5, but it's really called the 13 millimeter, which is going to go right now. That's 13 millimeter. It's got a spherical look, and then it switches. I believe that one's a different millimeter there. This is 13 millimeter because it's spherical, and it goes to 24 to 48. That's 48. When you're dealing with 100 millimeter, it looks like that, and then we get into the 200 millimeter. Church and school. I am with you always. Matthew 28:20. I am with you always. All right, time is 8:18 p.m. That's location. Maestro's Tacos on our way. 8:22, 1 mile. Ampersand, and there's Maestro's. So he's gonna get me. Oh, that's okay. He almost got my ankle. No! Can't really see him. I'm sure there's that doggy. Oh yeah, he's right there. There it is. Maestro. All right, 7-Eleven on the way. 9:03, 6.2. Popeye's chicken, 916, 1.2. Get it at Popeye's. Right, Popeye's on the way, 929, 4.2. Hawaiian Brothers on the way, 938 for 1.2 for the pickup. All right, going to Magnolia. Hawaiian Brothers, 957. Good family, Lord. Looks like Mag and May. These are actually pretty cool apartments. They're kind of like an artistic flair at the very end of West Magnolia and May Street, at the corner of Magnolia and May. And they've got like a lot of murals and stuff like that painted on the actual buildings. It's pretty classic. One car ahead and one car behind. He's standing in the middle of the road over here looking at his phone, but yet there was someone talking to him on a speakerphone because of what went down coming out of the warehouse, the grocery warehouse, the parties, Party City, I think is what it was, on the recent setup. So I'm being aware because I was already told by LiveSmart that someone was following me in Richland. So what happened was, I'm basically on pause right now, and that's why I don't know if it was that dude that's looking at the phone. What happened was there was an order that came out of the warehouse that I think it went over like other side of Fort Worth, and it was basically just a balloon, a Valentine's balloon. Hang on for a minute. I'm back. It was a Valentine balloon and a thing of flowers. So the guy called me and he said, "Oh, okay, just call me when you get there, because I'll meet you at the door," or something like that. That's what he said at first. So this was probably planned dialogue. So I said, "Okay, when I get there, I'll call you." So I called him, And when I got to, it was a hand to customer and markets complete. So when I got to the area, and the warehouse is down that way, past the skate park. When I got to the area, the house, I called him like he asked, and he wasn't there. Then I believe I called him again, or no, he called me, and he said, just leave it at the door and knock once. And I was so tired, because I've been working like 10-hour, 11-hour, 13-hour shifts, that I did that, to thinking, okay, it's just a gift thing. They'll open the door after I leave. Don't ever do that, because that turns into what's known as a contract violation. They're probably studying it. It was left at the door, so I have the photo taken. I screenshotted the photo from the video. It's also in the post. It's in the actual vlog. So it's dropped at the door, and you don't do that because you have to hand it to the customer. So I could have banged on the door 11:30 at night, like, get your balloon, your Valentine gift, get your flowers. But I just, I knocked once, like he said, and walked away and hit markets complete. So he basically fooled me. And that's why I said Valentine trickery in it on the last vlog. So now I'm kind of aware at this hour to see where they are, because this is probably coming from like maybe the Live Smart people, or what's known as Impulse. They're basically competitors. And Live Smart, I don't know if they're connected with ADT. I think Impulse might be, I'm not for sure. But they could do something like that maybe. And they don't care if it's the wrong address or whatever. All they have to do is file the complaint and basically tell the truth. They say, well, he didn't hand it to me. And they can tell that. But he called and asked for it to be dropped at the porch. So it's a very technical, legalistic kind of thing that they did. And it's very low. And so I have to work through that, So I'm able their next little foil, whatever it may be. I'm going to a different area where they have to stretch a little more money, to try to, mess with me. All this is being recorded, and everything you say will be held against you in the court of law, and everything you do will be held against you in the court of law. Right, Whataburger over by Valentine, 1022, 1.2. Beef sticks. Whataburger on the way, 10:38, 9 minutes, 3 miles for the delivery. So what it does is a radio signal injection is what I'm going with. That's why it's saying that the Apple CarPlay is doing what it's doing. Or it would switch over to the radio. So give me a second. There's a south and a north on Bexley, left bank. It's gonna be this one right here. It's that building right there. Ahead, one car behind. All right, it's 10:50 on this one. 0.7. Picking up some Wingstop. This Wingstop's actually a pretty good one. This black chick that works in there, she's actually pretty quick with the orders, and they usually don't have any issues. I kind of watch over the areas that I'm at. I'm kind of strategic on where I do these things. But yeah, they're pretty good at this Wingstop, other than some other Wingstops where, you know, it's like ordering Wingstop in Tijuana or something. Man. Going down at 5 brew. That's for sure. Thumbs up because they have a smart and a double lock right here. So that's pretty cool. But they need to clean up a little bit. All right, Wingstop, 11:12 p.m. on the way. It's not all good. All right. Last one for tonight. Last one for tonight. We're gonna head back and feed Kitty. Once again, that's the last one for tonight. We're gonna head back and feed Kitty. If things work out for me with this new position and stuff, I'm probably going to end up getting final draft on the Mac. I'm going to tell you, when I was working on the final draft with Grace, the reason why it took me 5 years to write that fighting werewolf movie, it's like half mixed martial arts and it's half werewolf movie, and it became that, was down the line, the Dell that I was using, it was working, but as the last 2 or 3 years of working on that screenplay progressed, it started taking 20 minutes just to kind of turn on. And then I'd have to wait for updates that could take like 45 minutes. This is when I was in the white settlement place. When I was at the mansions, it would still turn on pretty quick, and I was able to get going, you know. Because what I do is, a lot of cases with Grace, I started off with note cards. Then from note cards, I would write some stuff, I think, on paper, and then I would eventually put it into the software, the Final Draft software. It was like, I don't remember exactly how much it cost me. I got it when I was still married to Angel. I worked on a lot of plays on it. I would use the software to write plays too. But usually, with plays, I would write it on a composite book, and then I would transfer it into the software. But with Grace, I kept going back, and I already had the entire thing written, but I wanted to add things, and I wanted to change dialogue, and there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to add that I didn't get to, because I would sit there for 20 or 45 minutes waiting for the thing to be ready to turn on. Now that I have the Mac, I just press one button, literally maybe a second. Other than if it reads my fingerprint, okay, I'm in, and it's good to go, and it's a high processor. All my stuff filters through the Mac, or I wouldn't have these hour-long shows. I basically do a feature film a night. So when I get that software, we can start to do readings of something, and I might do a play, or I might do another screenplay. I don't know for sure if I'm going to turn Rib into a screenplay, and I got 10 more chapters of that to write. The new dystopian novel, I'm not releasing the title of that. I'm keeping that quiet. I may post it on Facebook a little bit, and eventually I might post it on fictionpress.com under Ash Cole, which is my pseudonym. But I've thought about getting a composite book for now. You know, those little $2 composite books, and just writing a play about maybe what Linda and I go through, and then, because Linda has a drinking problem. And then maybe a little bit about maybe a delivery driver or something coming home, and he keeps coming back to his pad. I call like a apartment, I call it a pad. I used that a lot when I was younger. They go back to his pad, and he, you know, like the lily pad, you know, the frog hops on the lily pad. And then he has conversations with her, and going in and out, and maybe hinting at his new door-to-door position, but not really talking about any kind of confidentiality stuff. The new pressure of going from 6 or 7 hour days to going from 10 to 13 hour days, and seeing if something will come out of that. Which was UHM, was kind of talking about the unprofessionalism of YouTube and relationships. Adam the Woo's mentioned in it. I believe Scott on Tape is mentioned. And there's vloggers are mentioned, so they're talking about vloggers. Grace does talk about vloggers. And that's already been written. It's already a screenplay. And then listen, if I get this software onto the Mac, I'm probably going to pull Grace into it. And we might do some readings of that and stuff like that. But I got to get going. QT's turned into a social event more than a freaking gas station. Something about a door. When they're low on sriracha sauce, like they got like a couple squirts left, I usually just take the last part of the bottle. They just throw it away anyway. You got an egg roll, go home, make some ramen noodle. About $7 in gas. not going to be able to show my ramen noodle vlog because I might show a little bit of it because of data, but I will be able to show Kitty, and I'm probably going to feed Kitty something. Let's see if I can find my egg. Oh, there it is. It's White Boy Day. Egg roll. Remember that from True Romance? Well, you get an egg roll. I don't know how he did it. It's like a slight English accent. And one of these things. Wowza, wowza. As I want to say about today on the door-to-door, there's a guy that mentioned his USAA bank account. And I understand that means he was military and he has guns in the house. But so did my grandfather. My grandfather was held, well, he was put under blankets right next to my grandmother. And the home invader told him if he got out from those blankets, regardless of his military experience, he was still going to be shot. So he had to stay under the blankets, and my grandfather couldn't get to a gun at that moment. If they had a proper security system like they do today, that home invader would be in bar, like he'd be behind bars, or he may be between the bars. They got away. Nowadays, if you use the proper equipment and protection, especially with ADT, they're not going to get away. That was one thing I wanted to say to that guy, you know. Yeah, we know about your military, but your military is not going to always be there. Another thing, too, especially when you're older and everything, you know, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines are going to show up. There's a process in protecting you now when you're in the real world and you got your own home. It's a beautiful house he had. And another thing, too, is the other guy that I talked to, you know, he listened to me and stuff, but he seemed to be kind of, you know, a little upset and stuff. And I understand. I've had doors slammed on me. I understand. And some people just like to listen to salesmen. You know, that's what I kind of learned tonight. You gotta have to kind of judge them a little bit, but you can practice your presentation on them. So that's some things that I got something out of it. One of the things about my second wife, and she did give me 3 children, but that's not the be-all, end-all, okay? It is a wonderful thing. It's a woman's job, but God is involved in that. But here's what I want to say when I first talked to her. When I first talked to Angel on the phone, I don't know where she's at now, she said, I know how important a man's work is to it, but she also needs to consider the fact that I'm an artist. And an artist gets it done with work. See the purple light? The purple light represents something. I think she can figure it out. All right, kitty. Say goodnight. All right, here we go with today's kitty. 1 kitty, 9 lives. Each life has a number. Numbers 1 through 9. Swirl cat food. Fancy feast, salmon feast, and grilled. It's gonna have gravy in it, baby. All right, here we go. There we go, kitty. I'm gonna give some to the outdoor cats too. And this will be what I'm going to show for tonight. I can't, I have to protect data. So we're going to do like turkey franks mixed in with all these different vegetables. Like this is bell pepper, spinach, leeks, squash, cucumber. I believe those are beets, carrots, lots of spinach, turkey, and I'm gonna have this ramen noodle. Just use this old avocado, mix it in with some of this ranch that I got from QT. It's a Sriracha Ranch. All right, and y'all have a good night. Before I wrote them. We got the sriracha, and we're gonna get this going. All the vegetables in there. It's nice and hot. Okay? There will be an accounting, and there will be payback. It's the line right here. The lime is the important part of it. Then we'll do this right here. We have some of this right here. We're gonna put on it. For the sake of taste. Okay. Then I got myself some of the peach tea. Very, very, very hot. Watch TV. Okay. There we go, right there. Y'all have a good night.